Welcome, folks. Welcome
Welcome.
to the F Bomb Show, where periodically you may see an F bomb go by. Today, Tara and I have really been chatting a lot about, different topics, and we've been trying to brainstorm different topics for the show. And I was telling Tara prior to coming in about how I was checking emails and just things set me off in the wrong way and set me into a bad mood. And it started to make me think about the types of leadership that are ineffective for the job basically or for the workplace and the types of leadership that can be very effectual in getting tasks accomplished and people motivated in the workforce. So I think that's what we're going to lead off with today is talking about the different types of leadership, but more specifically looking at one type, right? Terry, you really wanted to look at one.
Yeah. I wanted to talk a little bit today about authentic leadership. I think it's huge in today's world. But aside from that, and maybe I'm catching you a little off guard here.
Yeah, well,
Um, Maybe we should kind of discuss too between you and I
mm,
whether there's like a certain type of leadership, whether there are going to be some that we don't agree with, but if they're effective in certain industries, in certain settings, right?
yeah, certain environments where that leadership style is needed to
Yeah.
get what needs to be done. Reviewing my notes is true, Tara, because it's like that's called selective leadership, right? It's not one style is going to fit for that particular instance in time or that particular moment. And so sometimes as a leader, you need to pick the one that best fits the needs of that particular moment.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess we'll start off with authentic leadership.
Sure.
Okay.
You want to start that off?
Not really.
Yeah.
Authentic leadership. Well, I don't know. What comes to your mind when you think of authentic?
Like that you're trying to be your true self. That's what I think about. Authenticity it's a large term to define, and it actually was a really hot topic a long time ago. When I was I think I was like a teenager or my early 20s, being your authentic self was like really hot in the moment in the
But I
time.
feel like it's also starting to come back as well.
Yeah,
Like you're hearing people just wanting to be who they are, being loved for who they are.
yeah,
And I think that's starting to cross over into the professional world as well,
very much.
in the sense
Yeah,
of, this is who I am, this is how I lead, this is my management style, and so on.
yeah. I think, and that's characteristic of being, I think, an authentic leader. One of the things that I think about when I say authentic leader, right, is I think about you're trying to be true to yourself as an individual, as a leader for, a particular team, but you're also recognizing authenticity in your team and
Mhm.
trying to work on their strengths, their needs at that time.
Mhm.
And I think one of the things I think about in terms of being that authentic leader is also being truthful to individuals to say, I can't do this, or I need some help or support in this capacity, right?
Right. So being self-aware is a
Yeah.
huge characteristic of being authentic,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
being original.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, would you agree? Like having that self-reflective practice or self-awareness is like part of that authenticity?
Yes, 100% agree that you have to have some sort of self-awareness to be able to be authentic. I think it's you're trying to be who you are and bring those values of who you are into the type of leadership skills that you're trying to portray, whether, it's, being the CEO of a large firm or, a manager of a small team in every aspect. I think that as long as you're trying to bring your true values, your authentic values into the type of leadership that you're trying to portray, that's true authentic leadership.
Yeah. You know what you just made me think of too is like that as a leader, if you want to be authentic, you really need to be self-aware of what your limits are
Yeah,
and what
you have to have
your
your
values are, right?
yeah, and boundaries.
And boundaries. Yeah. And I think it's kind of funny. I had an instance at work this past week where I'm not very vocal with saying no or even saying like knowing my own boundaries. But there was an instance at work this week where I was just like, no. And I don't know if that comes with age because we would talk a lot about
I
like
think
our
so,
age,
it
but
might.
but it does. Like it's knowing your boundaries, not only as a leader, but I think also knowing your boundaries for your team,
Yeah,
right? And knowing what you can push them to, but also what they can't be pushed to and what's really off limits,
right.
right? Yeah. I don't know. Anyways, I was remarking on that because I think you need to be very aware of your values. I don't think a lot of leaders are aware of their own biases, their own limits, their own boundaries sometimes. I think you become aware of those things in the moment at some point, but you have to be reflective on it, aware of it.
I think there are a lot of leaders out there that may not be as authentic, but they're trying to keep up with like the strategic goals and the
Yeah.
vision of the company,
Yeah.
or they don't know how to integrate that authenticity
Yeah.
into their leadership style,
Yeah.
which can be an issue because I feel like as society we're trying to be more authentic because there's always that awareness of like love me for who I am.
Yeah.
And there are lots of things going on around that. I lost my train of thought for a second.
That's okay. And maybe think too, like, because it really connects back to when we talked about imposter syndrome. Because half the time you feel like an imposter, but as an authentic leader, you should know that that may be just like that nagging feeling, right? That's saying you're not good enough. You're not good enough. But as an authentic leader, you're also able to vocalize that to your staff, right? And
Mhm.
say like, you know what, I'm not feeling very confident right now in this capacity. What do you think we can do as a team to kind of make this better or whatever? But I think it really ties well back to what we were saying is imposter syndrome. Maybe this
Mhm.
is the opposite of that, right? Where you're
Yeah.
not feeling like an imposter. You're free to say,
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it, actually.
maybe it's the opposite end of the spectrum. Maybe we should do some research on that.
I think
I'm a little
so.
biased though. But it's true, right? Is it just the opposite end of the spectrum for us? Is it just being super vocal about what our limitations, what our biases are, what our vulnerabilities are as individuals, and maybe what our strengths, maybe we all know what our strengths are.
I think at some capacity we do know what our own strengths are. It's whether we feel safe enough
That's true, right? It comes back
to
to
use
that
them.
environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then how do you, let's just say you're in that type of environment, how do you implement or try to implement authenticity in that environment? So say you're reporting to
true.
somebody who's not very authentic, let's say,
Mm.
and but you're managing your own team and you want to implement.
Foster that.
Yeah.
Right?
So how would you build that into your own team?
I can tell you how I try to, and I don't know if it's so much building authenticity, but it's also building the ability for my staff to feel that they can come to me if they need support or if they need the help, right? And I think it's just having daily communication with your staff that's not centered on their tasks. Like it's about talking about them like a person. How was your weekend? How was,
Yeah.
what have you been doing? And, how was that event that you went to that you told me about last time? And
Also the ability to make mistakes
yeah,
and
not punch
not being
them.
shit for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like how you term not being shit for it because that's happened quite a few times. And I think, yeah, they need to feel that it's okay to make a mistake.
Well, that's what I mean when we're raising our children. That's what we're telling them.
I don't know. My kids probably wouldn't feel that way right now.
But it's true.
It's
Like
true.
if we make a mistake, we always say like,
Yeah.
as long as it's okay, everybody makes
Yes.
mistakes. We're not
Yes.
computers. We're not robots.
Yeah.
But if you make a mistake and you learn from it,
Yeah. I think that's
it's about taking that different avenue, and that's how you learn from it and you grow.
yeah. And
But why are we not applying that?
that's
Well,
a
in
good
some
point.
cases, why are we not applying that in the professional field?
I think it's a good question. I think, and not that I'm trying to justify it in any capacity. I think sometimes we get so caught up in trying to get things done. I know I'm my term is a get shit done kind of girl, GSD girl.
Yeah.
And I know some others who would totally align with that thought. But I think sometimes we have to slow it down to realize not everybody works at that pace. And when they do work at that pace, they're going to make mistakes.
Right.
Right. So maybe it's just that, it's just that we're in this perpetual cycle of trying to get things done. Then we don't realize that people are people. They're humans and they're bound to make mistakes. Right.
Mhm.
I mean, that's a really important component of authenticity, knowing that, yeah, I'm human, right? I'm going to make mistakes and to forgive yourself and also your team, right? And move forward. Like you said, learn from it and move forward.
Right. Also setting like reasonable goals, I think.
Yeah, I think that's yeah.
I think that's part of being authentic as well.
Okay, but you know what that takes is regular performance reviews.
Okay.
But it doesn't have to be formalized, right? Like sitting with your team. It's true.
It could just be a check-in though.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's what I'm doing with my team is
Yes.
like we're meeting every week and
Yeah.
then having like, okay, what are we focusing on? What are your challenges? What's like your energy vampire? Like what's sucking so much life out
Yeah.
of you
Yeah.
that you're not able to focus on anything else that's on the priority list, right?
Yeah, it's true.
And then like, do you have anything else? It could be personal or professional that is weighing you down that maybe we should be aware of so that we can work together.
Yeah.
right?
I really got that. Actually, that method I got from a really great mentor who currently works with me. And I remember her doing that every time we met as a team. It was like and I feel like once every couple of weeks or once every month. My brain doesn't work right now. Anyway, so I remember her doing the same thing. Everybody had to state 3 wins and a challenge that they were having that week. And the point of it was that we were supposed to focus on the challenge and vocalize it to our team. Because sometimes what happens is you have a team member who says, hey, I can help you with that.
Yeah.
Or what did you think about this particular thing? Or how about this? So you get different perspectives and different support.
Yeah.
Right?
You could even go into some of those meetings with an icebreaker.
Yeah.
Like I've started this new job and I've had my first team meeting.
Oh, that's
And my boss had brought in these cards and it was like icebreaker cards.
I love that.
So
Oh.
the weirdest thing, like I'm the newbie. I'm the fresh blood there. And my card, like we each had to read our card out loud and then answer it. And my card was, imagine that you just purchased your dream home or that you're building it. What is the one weird thing that you would have in your house or built in your room? What was it, Tara? And I was like, I just said, well, how personal do we want to get? And they just started laughing. But I was just being my authentic self,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And so then they're like, that brought me thoughts of like 50 Shades of Grey. And I'm like, well, if he was there, I mean,
I wouldn't have a problem.
right? But I ended up saying something like a country bar or something, like a whiskey
That would still
room
be
type
fun.
of thing.
That would
Yeah. Yeah. So,
But it's true. It's really about feeling, I shouldn't say uninhibited, because
Yeah.
I think there's also like some boundaries you need to place on what you portray to your staff. But I think it's also about like, when my staff come in, and regularly have one staff member who comes in and he's like, how was your night? And I'm always like shooting off and flying. Well, I had to take my kids here and here, and I was the chauffeur for the night. And, I'm like just letting them see that you're human,
yeah.
right? You're not this person like way up here, untouchable,
But I
right?
find that helps too. And
Yeah.
I'm glad that she did that with our team.
Yes.
Because now I know the girl across from me used to live overseas, and her question was, what would
Exactly.
you do if you didn't have to work for the rest of your life? And she was like, oh, I'd probably go shopping and get my hair and my nails done. Well, there was at one point she did live that life, but then they moved back here, and now she,
Yeah.
different economies, but now
Yeah.
you have to.
Well, you also
But
find ways
Now
to,
I know, like I know her a little bit more personally,
Yeah.
like her true self, and then I can go and talk. You just feel like you know somebody a little bit better, but then that allows you to work a little bit better with them as
Yeah.
well.
it's true. You make that connection.
Yeah.
It's a connection, right? That
Exactly.
you want. And you connect on different things. Like you know that this person you can connect on this topic, right?
Yeah.
But that takes an underlying will to get to know your staff too, right? So it's part of being authentic too, is wanting to build the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a friendship, it's a relationship,
Yeah.
right? There's a difference.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's that need for a connection, but there's also that need to know things about your staff that are pretty, I think, important on an everyday kind of level. And those daily check-ins, I think, are so underrated.
They are.
Even when you have a big staff. Like I know some hospital managers who have like 80 people working under them. There's no way you can daily check in with 80 people, but you can do it on a regular basis.
You can't like they're directly reporting to them,
Yeah.
or is it like they have their leads and then they have teams under
Well,
that?
that's kind of what I'm wondering, right? Because I've known some who have 80 staff, but there are leads for every shift, for example, or whatever.
Mhm.
I think you can delegate that, but I think as a manager too, there's ways to check in with people on a regular basis. It doesn't have to be every day, right? You can check in with your leads. You can check in with, say, this shift on the weeks that you work on this, that shift's level, or
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think there's a reason for the hierarchy in that sense, though,
For sure.
because if for somebody that has like 80 people under them, guarantee they don't have 80 direct reports. That's like
it'd
a
be
lot.
insane.
But they probably have their leads where they would be able to check in with their leads, and then the leads would be the ones that it would
Yeah.
cascade down.
Well, and that's another question, right? Like, is how do you foster that authenticity in the ones that are leading other teams?
You could also hold like quarterly meetings with the entire
Yeah.
entire
Yeah.
team,
For sure.
which is what I'll be doing.
And I know, like, I feel like a few organizations, they do like their, what are they called? Their weekly, my husband does it all the time. I can't even think of it, but it's part of like the whole lean methodology where they do like a weekly kind of 30-minute meeting, and it's right in the morning so maybe for that shift, right? When your
Okay.
night shifts come on to the day, then like you doing that
Like a
weekly.
toolbox talk type of thing.
Oh my God, what is it called? This again, today, this is case in point of what my day's been like today. I can't remember anything today. It's gonna come to me, and it's probably gonna be after we're done filming this episode. I'm gonna be like, Tara, that was what was that's what I was trying to get across.
I'll do a voiceover.
Yeah, no, it's okay. See, it's authenticity.
There you go.
Yeah. No, I think that's it. That's key. And I think just trying to remember that really. Is there anything else? I'm feeling like we're missing something from authenticity. Maybe it's about, some of the things, when I was reading about types of leadership, this is me at like midnight last night, trying to read up on types of leadership and trying to really recollect all those different types that you've heard about. There's always drawbacks to every type. Like,
Okay.
what are the challenges in trying to be an authentic leader? And and then you got to think about like, when is it not effective?
I think some of the challenges would be someone who's not comfortable with themselves
Yeah.
and that doesn't know how to truly be themselves because
Yeah.
they feel like they're constantly putting on a front for someone else or trying to
Yeah.
engage someone else's approval of them or whatever that they're doing.
Yeah, that's big
I
one.
think that would be a challenge because sometimes there are people that don't know how to make that shift,
Yeah.
that are constantly on the go, trying to impress other people, that they forget how to be self-aware.
Themselves.
Yeah.
I think the other one that couples with that is when you are working in an environment that does um not foster, but allow for authenticity. Sometimes you have environments that are very toxic,
hmm
and when you try to be authentic, it's almost pushed back at you in your face.
I had that in my last job where
Yeah, I know.
if I was talking or, become friends with someone in a different department, then
Oh yeah,
I would get a talking to. And it was all because of my role. It was because of my title. To me,
Yeah.
that's not me.
Yeah.
I choose to speak to and engage with people that I enjoy speaking to and engaging with because of their personality, not
Same.
because of whatever title they
Yeah,
hold,
yeah.
whatever school they went to, how much money they make. That's not me.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So
I'm the same way.
yeah,
I'm the same way. And I think a lot of that, I mean, this is a whole other topic of conversation. I think sometimes that boils down to leadership that's not confident in itself and
Mhm.
pushing that down upon others. I think that's a huge challenge. Trying to be an authentic leader. When you have a direct report or you're directly reporting to somebody who doesn't value that or value like being collaborative at all in any capacity. I think too, some of the drawbacks though are when you really need decisions made in the moment. Authenticity can sometimes be like a hindrance. You may not get the decision made in the time that it needs to be done, or you may be deciding something that is in line with your value system and who you are, but then may not meet organizational needs, right? So
Mhm.
I think sometimes that can be conflictual.
Yeah, I think, not having that authenticity in your leadership style, being a leader, you're in a position of making decisions.
Yeah.
So I feel like if you don't have at least a little bit of that authenticity in
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
making those decisions is going to get
Mhm.
harder
Yeah.
and harder. And
Yeah.
they're going to be prolonged. Projects are going to be pushed back. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Deadlines are going to be missed because you're just being indecisive.
It's so true. It's so true. I think what I, more wanted to and I love that we've highlighted this one because I
Mhm.
feel like this is the one that aligns with me most. When we talk about the other different types, you'll see and this is what I read from it and this is what I get from it is that there's different types of leaderships like for each different moment, right?
Mhm.
But I feel like there's certain types and certain values within those leadership styles that resonate with me and the way I approach things with my staff and with the tasks that I have to get done and the organization I represent at that time. But it's really being authentic, being myself, that's most important for me as a leader to show people this is who I am.
Yep.
Right. I was really happy we decided to chat about this one today.
Me too.
I know. But I think this is, I don't know, is there anything else you wanted to say before we kind of
No?
Okay, I think that's really what I wanted to hammer home today on in this episode. I think the next episode where we really talk about types of leadership is going to be amazing. I think
We're trying to get in touch with some local leaders
and hopefully we're going to get
that have those
down.
different types of leaderships that can
Yeah.
kind of explain, how they've interacted with that type, how they may lead given that leadership. Like, not to say that any type of leadership is right or wrong, but how they would lead in that instant. Like,
That's what I want to lead with and talk about with them. And hopefully we can also discuss in that episode instances where have experienced leaders of other types.
Yeah.
Right. And where that's been effectual and maybe not very effective at all, right? And I
Yep.
think that's what we need to have that open discussion about. But otherwise, listen, it's been a peach today, folks. Thanks for joining us, and we hope to, bring back to you soon in the next episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. See you later.
See you later.